what's the question that they ask that you say, no, I don't want that cut, I don't want that cut? You said you don't want us to cut it out. So
So
what do we vote for? What's the question on the voting form?
I
That
mean,
we
if you
answer
want
no
to
to?
stay on this path,
It's
Yeah,
not our
what
vote.
you want.
It's not our vote.
It's not our vote.
It's our.
yeah, it's
Congressman's
a vote, it's the little vote I have, that little card I've got.
Oh, so we just tell them that we don't want it cut out.
Right.
We don't want the military cut down, we want them to cut. So that's
Well,
on the voting form?
all I'm saying is,
It's not on the vote.
well, let me give you a picture. This will help maybe explain. When I got elected, there was a lot of talk about rolling back to the budget of 2008. So I asked the payment officer that I met, that came and gave us an orientation before I ever was sworn in, between the election day and swearing in on January 3rd. They told us what our salary was and where the benefits were and all different things. So I caught her afterwards. I said, what did congressmen and congresswomen make in 2008? And she gave me a number, and I thought, that's what I'd like to be paid. Well, they can't reduce my salary alone. There's a constitutional provision that everybody has to be paid the same amount. So I decided at the end of the year, I would return that money. So at the end of the year, I called the Department of Treasury and talked to the Bureau of Public Debt. And I wanted to use my salary to help pay with the debt. Well, they didn't do that. Nobody had ever done that before, and they weren't sure what to do. Finally, they let me come over to the building. Now, the building is not the beautiful building right across from the Capitol, which is the U.S. Treasury. It's not there. The Bureau of Public Debt is in another area. You know, we have Belle and I have College Park. I was there yesterday, and I was also over in Dr. Phillips for these meetings. And so, but it's Orlando. Well, in Washington, the Bureau of Public Debt is in one of those communities. Anybody want to take a guess where it is?
Christmas?
Chinatown. Chinatown.
Well, that's not really.
That's ironic, because the money that we're borrowing, the $4.5 billion, a lot of it comes from China. And so 40 cents on every dollar that we borrow, that we spend. So there has to be some reduction. And it is, you can see this as a percentage of GDP, this is going down. The spending will follow suit. But there's a two-stage process here. There are budget reductions, there are economic enhancements in that our economic engine gets back to where it should be. And so it produces enough of the revenue, and more people are paying taxes, and there's more revenue to go around. So there's kind of a twofold thing. In order to get to this balanced budget, both of those things have to transpire. So there's a picture of where we are. And you know what? I didn't have to get a vote of the House and Senate and signature of the President to turn back my money. That's one of the few things I could do while I was there that I didn't have to get a vote on to do it. And there was another thing I did, which I didn't have to get a vote either. We're all given money to run our offices, or to hire staff, and to have phones and other things in our district and in Washington, D.C. And they're given an amount of money. The theory, at least the practice in Washington is if you have the money, then that means you should spend all of it. But I didn't take that philosophy. I thought, well, I'll just see how this works. So I serviced, I think we serviced our district. We did well. We had staff. I voted. I felt informed as I voted. The staff helped me in that, get me the information I needed. And so I finished the whole year, and I was able to turn back $500,000. Almost 32% of the money I was given, I turned back. That doesn't happen. But if every member of Congress did that, the only reason I'm telling you that is there is waste, which has nothing to do with cutting programs. And at least within that budget, for me, for that year, there was 32% of the money I didn't have to spend. And I could turn it back and be used to pay down the debt, $500,000. If every member did that, if every senator did that, they get 3 or 4 times the amount we get. and they were to save that money without hurting any person, without hurting any program, we would save billions. If every department and bureau and section and agency would do the same thing, not necessarily cutting programs, but just not buying as many pens and pencils and other things, then the possibility of saving hundreds of billions of dollars is there. And I could go into a program, but I'll let you ask some more questions. But there's a program I'm working on that is a small part of a larger issue that just is wasteful. It's providing services 2, 3, 4, and 5 times. Even though those services are not even capped, they can be provided by one provider. They have a whole bureaucracy providing the same services for the same person. I don't understand it, but I'm going to get to the bottom of it, and I'm going to solve it. Maybe I'll get a time at the end. I'll say yes.
Congressman, if I can ask you just to kind of change subjects for a second. I've had some conversations with some folks here earlier. Can you tell me what is happening in the real estate industry as far as what you foresee for interest rates, the foreclosing market, any tighter bank regulations coming our way?
Here's what really needs to happen. During 2005, 6, and 7, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac made loans they shouldn't have made. They did. To people that can't afford it. And the market dropped. Prices of the price of land in this area, especially in the Orlando area, went way down. Those that have, my house is paid for, so it didn't affect me, but my house went way down from what it was valued before. And so these mortgages were underwater, upside down, and there was problems. The key, in the end, is getting our economy rolling. We've passed about 28 bills down to the Senate. They haven't acted on just a couple of them. But they will return our economy to where it needs to be. They're job producing. It's all focused in on one, but there's a bunch of others. The XL pipeline would create 20,000 new jobs, 100,000 jobs over the ancillary jobs. It would bring oil. We'd get off the oil of the Middle East and all of the happenings there. All those things. I think getting the economy rolling is the key, because then people can afford to pay their mortgages and they can buy homes and get things going. I think trying to fix that and not fix the economy is only asking for a future failure, just sort of patches things over. If we can get the economy going, then the other things will fall into place. So that's kind of what I'm thinking is right. Yeah.
I saw in the news this morning that there's $2 trillion of money overseas. Is there anything Congress can do to incentivize these companies to repatriate that money so that they can spend it on jobs?
There are several bills, one that I've co-sponsored that would do that would allow for that if they were to. I think the reason Congress has been a little resistant to repatriation, they've done it before and the money got used and sort of got its way back overseas by buying things or using things and not actually producing anything here. So I think if we limit that to say, if you bring the money back and use it to buy capital, make capital expenditures and expanding your business or buying equipment to produce more things, create jobs, so forth, I'm for that. And that's what this bill does, co-sponsored to do that, and some other things too. But I think that's the key. Also, in the home ownership thing, I just thought about this, there's a bipartisan group that I'm a part of that meets in the morning, one morning every 2 weeks. And it's an equal number, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, and we get together and we thought about ideas that we could work on. We put forward about 3 or 4 of those. One of them in the area of a home savings account, similar to health savings accounts, in that it's tax-free money that people could save and use it for closing costs or down payments to homes. And we think that is really an awesome idea. It's catching some momentum, and it's another thing we could do. It goes kind of along the lines you're talking about.
Singapore does something similar to that.
Yeah, they do. Yes.
Maybe I'm not understanding, because the answer to her question, I still didn't get it. We bailed the banks out with the promise that they would help us. So the mortgage modifications went out there, but that wasn't given to the majority of the people, and still not. So we have homes that are sitting empty. We have homes that people have been sitting in for 2 and 3 years, just waiting for the banks to foreclose on them, because they won't take those interest rates down. What do we do?
Yes, well, I wasn't there when that took place,